Hello, and welcome to our podcast called Art X Activism. I'm Munawara.
And I'm Nagina. Today we're diving into the powerful world of Chinese contemporary artist and activist Ai Weiwei.
We will explore two of his most significant works, Sunflower Seeds and The Love of the Journey, and reflect on their social, political, and global impact.
We will also discuss the context behind these pieces, offer our personal reflections, and analyze how Ai uses visual elements and design principles to amplify his messages.
Now let's start with a brief introduction of our artist. Ai Weiwei was born in Beijing in 1957, the son of the renowned poet Ai Qing, who was persecuted during Mao's regime. This early exposure to political oppression deeply influenced Weiwei's work later.
Ai Weiwei's time in the 1980s in the United States was formative, both artistically and politically. Studying at institutions like Pearson School of Design and immersing himself in the vibrant downtown art scene of the New York City, he was exposed to Western ideals of individual freedom, democratic expression, and conceptual art. Influenced by artists such as Marcel Duchamp, Andy Warhol, and Allen Ginsberg, Ai developed an appreciation of art as a vehicle for challenging authority and questioning social norms. These expresses and experiences deeply shaped his worldview and creative philosophy. When he returned to China in the early 1990s, Weiwei brought with him not only a new artistic vocabulary, but also sharpened critical perspective. Confronted with the authoritarian climate of post-China, and he began using his work to challenge government censorship, expose corruption, and advocate of transparency and human rights. His art, bold, provocate, and politically charged, quickly gained international attention for its fearless critique of state control and its unwavering commitment to the truth of telling. In the Weiwei's translation experience became a catalyst for his transformation into one of the world's most prominent dissident artists, whose practice bridges cultural divides and while exposing the universal consequences of appreciation.
Ai Weiwei is not just a visual artist, he's also a documentarian, architect, and activist. His work often blurs the lines between art and protest, challenging authority and inviting civic dialogue.
I fully agree with you, Munawara. Weiwei's activism is deeply embedded in his art, and vice versa. He often places himself at personal risk facing situations, house arrest, and other risky situations, not for shock value, but to spotlight the mechanisms of the state power and the importance of individual freedom. His work is ongoing conversation with the public and provocation that challenges viewers to confront injustice, question and authority, and engage in meaningful dialogue about the world they live in. And now let's talk about Sunflower Seeds, an installation from 2010 at the Tate Modern At first glance, it looks like a beach of gray pebbles, until you realize it's made up of 100 million handmade porcelain seeds.
Yeah, that's right, Nigina. Each seed was crafted by skilled artisans in Jingdezhen, China, a city known for porcelain production. And the visual repetition and uniformity symbolize mass production, conformity, and the loss of individuality under China's communist regime.
There is a deeper social and political commentary embedded in the artwork as well. Under Mao Zedong's rule, Chinese propaganda frequently portrayed the masses as sunflowers, turning toward Mao, who was symbolized as a sun and emblem of life, guidance, and authority. This imagery was intended to represent loyalty, unity, and unquestioning devotion of the people to the Communist Party. Ai Weiwei subverts this idealized symbolism by intempering the sunflowers not a passive emblem of obedience but as a vehicle for critique. In doing so, he exposes how the state used such a imagery and manufacture collective identity and suppress individuality. By reclaiming and reshaping sunflower motif, A draws attention to the mechanisms of political indoctrination and to assure of dissent under authoritarian regimes.
From a design perspective, I can say that the work uses repetition, texture, and scale masterfully. And the seeds create a sense of both wonder and unease, drawing the viewers' attention to consumerism and labor exploitation.
Globally, this piece comments on how we are all complicit these systems. Proclaim is a global export, but the labor behind of it often remains invisible, just like the people in authoritarian societies. Now let's take a look at the Law of Journey 2017. This massive installation features a 70-meter long black rubber boat filled with 258 faceless refugee figures. It was created during the height of the global refugee crisis. He had visited dozens of refugee camps and personally witnessed and struggles of displaced people, especially those crossing the Mediterranean.
The facelessness of the figures removes individuality, echoing how refugees are often seen as statistics. The black rubber material, being called an industrial, adds to the dehumanization.
I fully agree with you, Munawara. This piece utilizes scale, unity, and contrast to force emotional confrontation. The boat dominates space, almost overwhelming viewers with its presence.
If we see from the political perspective, it's a critique of the West's inadequate response to the refugee crisis, and socially, it asks us to empathize with those forced into migration due to war, poverty, or climate change.
Law of the Journey is also profoundly global piece. While it was directly inspired by the European refugee crisis, particularly the mass displacement of Syrians and others fleeing war, persecution, and economic collapse, it seems transcend regional boundaries. The monumental black inflatable boat filled with anonymous faceless refugee figures serves as a powerful symbol of forced migration and the human cost of political inaction. The work acts as a both of witness and provocation. It records the suffering of those displaced and challenges viewers to confront their eyes and open roles within systems of privilege and neglect. Ultimately, Law of the Journey is a visual plea of compassion and accountability, and remaining how we respond to humanitarian crises, not as isolated national problems, but as shared global responsibilities.
Finally, talking about my personal reflections. Love of the Journey made me reflect on how desensitized we can become to humanitarian crisis. And seeing the massive scale of the piece makes me confront the human cost.
I felt the same way with sunflower seeds. The fact that each seed was handmade made me think about how we overlook individual labor in a world obsessed with mass production.
In the class, we talked about how art can be a form of resistance. Ai Weiwei embodies that. He uses form, symbolism, and even the material of his work to speak truth to the power.
We also discussed visual hierarchy and balance, concepts of Weiwei uses to guide the viewer's attention. In sunflower seeds, the flatness and endless spread of the seeds create a calm, meditative visual rhythm, but it's also deeply political.
And in Love of Journey, the symmetry of the figures adds to the sense of order, but it's the disturbing order, one that reflects the bureaucratic handling of human lives.
So, in conclusion, I want to say that Ai Weiwei challenged us to reconsider the traditional boundaries of art by presenting it not merely as a pursuit of aesthetic beauty, but as patent form of activism. His work blurs the lines between creative expression and political resistance, urging viewers to engage with pressing social issues rather than passively admiring the form. For Weiwei, art is not an escape from reality, it is confrontation with it. Whether addressing the themes of state censorship, human rights, forced migration, or historical memory. His installations compel the audience to bear witness to injustice and to reflect on their own positions within systems of power. In doing so, he redefines the role of artist as a civic participant and moral provocator. His art does not end with observation, it demands awareness, empathy, and ultimately action. Through his bold and often confrontational pieces, A calls on society to recognize the ethical stakes of silence and to embrace the transformative potential of creating dissent.
As a closing sentence, I can absolutely say that we had a deep analysis and reflection of these two masterpieces of Ai Weiwei, and I hope this close introduction and analysis of these two work inspires us to look deeper, further at the art around us and the world behind it.
Thank you so much for joining us on Art as Activism. We hope this conversation inspires you to look deeper at the art around you and the world behind it. I'm Nigina.
And I'm Munawara. Until next time.
See you!